Good morning, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you all so much for joining us. I'm thrilled to welcome you to this morning's Anteater Welcome Reception. My name is Jeff Menhas. I'm Executive Director for Alumni Relations at the UCI Alumni Association. And I am thrilled to be the first today to welcome you, both students and parents, to the Anteater family. Congratulations, first of all, on your entry to UCI, to our great community and beginning your journey. You may be wondering off the top, why is the Alumni Association opening this program since I haven't even started classes yet, and this is all so new? Well, I wanted to let you know that our philosophy here at UCI is that once you become an Anteater, you're an Anteater for life. In a number of years, you're going to join our global alumni network of more than 200,000 alumni. And we are very much concerned with supporting you now during your student years and beyond as part of a lifelong relationship that we hope will last between you and UCI. So we are all in this Anteater family together, and we have quite a bit to talk about today to kind of get you acquainted and get you ready for your journey. So for the program today, the Alumni Association and the UCI Parent and Family Engagement teams have been working together to bring this to you. And we've been doing this for a number of years, hosting this event for incoming families. Now, we know you're getting ready to begin your academic journey next month, but in the meantime, we have a couple of free, valuable resources for you to get a head start outside of the classroom that I wanted to mention briefly before we get started. So I've got two links on the slide here right below my photo. The Anteaters Go Virtual is a virtual hub. It's a website that we have with the link here. It has a plethora of virtual resources for you as incoming Anteaters to enjoy and to leverage. That includes a calendar of upcoming virtual events on a variety of topics, including a video archive of past events that we've done. We have career panels, webinars, years worth of content from Anteaters who are leaders in their field, who have basically lent their time to give programs to our students and alumni. So we invite you to take a look at that. We also have downloadable resources for you and your family, maybe as a creative outlet during this time of social distancing. And we have a number of career preparatory resources, which you may have already been thinking about, but if not, I encourage you to early on in your student career. There's one that I'd like to highlight in particular, and that's the second link on this slide, and that is called the Anteater Network. The Anteater Network, or AntNet for short as we call it, is all about mentorship. It allows student mentees to reach out to a network of thousands of alumni mentors who have already raised their hand and indicated they have time available to mentor students. It is as easy to connect with someone as it is to join or to ask or send a friend request on a social media network. And the alumni that have lined up are waiting to give back to the students. And incoming parents, I also welcome you to join that platform. As I mentioned before, you're part of the Anteater family, and we welcome your participation as mentors as well. So please join the Anteater Network and get started on your mentorship journey. Now I want to touch on a couple of high notes on the next slide regarding UCI in general. We've come a long way in our 55 years. We like to say we're 55 years young, but we are very much proud of our accomplishments, and UCI has a global reputation as a worldwide leader in so many different areas. We have 29 graduate programs ranked in the nation's top 50. We have been recognized for several years running as the #1 university doing the most for the American dream by the New York Times College Access Index. We're the #1 best college overall in the US, according to Money Magazine. And you have successfully navigated this as incoming families, but we are now in the top 2 most applied to schools in the nation. Think about that. UCI is known on a worldwide level as being one of the premier, most sought after institutions in the US. And congratulations to you, because you were amongst a huge pool of applicants and you are here now starting your Anteater journey. So we are very thrilled to have you. We're going to be very excited when you finish your student journey and become alumni. As I mentioned, we will be here forever. The UCI Alumni Association is invested in you now and will be for life. So welcome, Anteaters. You're going to learn a little bit more about what it means to be an Anteater through this journey. So today, I'd like to transition the program so we can get things really going to the parent and family engagement team, specifically my great colleague, Christina Johnson. Christina.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. Hello, good morning, everyone. You actually are in the largest welcome reception that we've had to date, actually. So I echo Jeff's appreciation for your commitment to UCI, such a huge accomplishment. So definitely give yourself a round of applause that no one else can hear, but we definitely can feel that. So as Jeff mentioned, my name is Christina Johnson. I am the Senior Director of Engagement and Annual Programs here at UCI. And so you'll hear from me throughout the year, as well as my colleagues, Mel Bergerina and Lauren Walker. You'll get tons of invitations, whether it's an event invitation, an invitation to partner with campus, to be a volunteer. Please don't send us to spam. There's a lot of important updates, even from COVID to graduation. We'll definitely be with you along the ride. And so I have the pleasure of working with a lot of the panelists that you'll hear from today. But one of my favorite aspects of my job is to partner with Mel and Lauren on the parent and family engagement side. And so you'll hear from them a little bit, but before we begin, I wanted to share a little bit about this program. And so in years past, so I've been in my role for about 3.5 years, this event has typically been in person throughout California. And the great part about that is that we got to interface with you all. But the beautiful part about the virtual receptions is that you'll have the opportunity to meet with a lot of the staff that you otherwise would not have in one setting. So we're excited to introduce you to a few folks. I wanted to just kind of give you an overview of what today will look like. And so you'll hear from our Vice Chancellor of Student Affairs. We'll also hear from our Director of Marketing and Outreach for undergraduate admissions. The wonderful part about that introduction is that you've heard from Brian Ju as you kind of came on board to UCI and made your commitment. So he's kind of welcome you once he has had the chance. And so you'll also hear from our UCI Alumni Board President, and then you'll also have the chance to get words of wisdom and some expertise from a current student who is also our ASUCI president. And so we're excited to introduce you to the speakers, and we're also excited to kind of give you some answers to questions. So for this event, it's primarily a celebratory event. You will, and I've kind of checked out in the chat, there's a lot of questions about housing and tuition and financial aid and very personal questions about your child's account. We will try to answer questions the best we can. And most throughout the day, you'll, besides hearing my son scream in the background, you'll have the chance to get information and contacts related to these questions. We will not be able to, unfortunately, answer them all, but we will try our best to either answer them or direct you to the experts in that field. So before we introduce the panelists, I'd like to transition it to my colleague, Mel Bergerina. Mel?
Thanks so much, Christina. Good morning, everyone. In my role in parent and family engagement at UC Irvine, we work to help families connect to campus culture and to create their own experience as they transition their students into college life. Our parent engagement team really works with parents to connect their own interests in ways to advance campus initiatives. And we're here today to invite you to create your own journey here at UCI. In my role, I work to inform the parent and family community through our communications and also support of the Parent Executive Board and its Anteater Grant Initiative, as well as the Parent Campaign for Student Success. Parent for university student life initiatives and provide philanthropic support to promote activities that enrich the UCI student experience. We've been really excited to already welcome 2 new families to the Parent Executive Board this summer and look forward to onboarding a few more before our fall meeting in November. This fall, you'll also receive an email communication with some more detailed information about this group and its Anteater Grant Initiative. In the words of one of our parent volunteers, parent engagement doesn't end at high school. There is still a lot of guidance that parents can provide to ensure student success while maintaining some distance as their student transitions through college to their next phase of life. Make sure that you have filled out your parent information form to ensure that you stay updated with all of our department's communications regarding COVID-19 updates, our events that Christina mentioned, and also ways to engage through the Parent Executive Board, opportunities to volunteer, and our monthly parent newsletter. This way you'll be the first to know of all of our events and opportunities on campus. To keep parents informed in a way that's user-friendly, we're also launching a new online parent community later this summer, which will have all of our parent information in one place, important dates, online resources featuring virtual opportunities, webinars, and important updates from campus leadership. I'll now turn it over to my teammate, Lauren Walker, who will speak more to parent volunteer opportunities and our events for UCI families.
Hi, thank you, Mel. Welcome, everyone. I'm so glad that you were able to join us today. It's a packed house, not that you can see, but we're just so excited to be able to connect with you and offer, some resources to you. So in my role on the parent and family engagement team, I work to engage parents to get them involved in whatever capacity best suits them. I specifically work with our Anteater parent ambassadors. So these are our parent volunteers. And so we have a few different options of virtual volunteer opportunities. So we're not slowing down with our volunteers just due to COVID. Parents are still getting involved and they're able to impact, the university. We have volunteer opportunities for event liaisons, so virtual events. We also have mentors to students. As Jeff mentioned, you should, and we encourage you to join the Anteater Network. This is a wonderful platform that offers great opportunities for not just our students, but parents and families and everyone in the Anteater family. So, definitely look into that. We also have campaign supporters and then social media representatives who help us share news on Facebook and Instagram and just keep other parents in the loop with what is going on throughout campus. And then I would just like to highlight a few of our key virtual events. We will have others, but these are our most popular ones that we put on. We have fireside chats, coffee socials, and then in the spring we will be having Anteater Family Weekend, which takes place during homecoming weekend, and this will be virtual for the first time. But we're excited to be able to reach a larger audience and offer innovative and fun content for families to view and participate together. So we're excited about that. As Christina mentioned, we will try to answer your questions as best as we can, but unfortunately we're not the subject matter experts in these areas. However, this is a slide with important contact information on it. So definitely take a photo of this, a screenshot, just so you have it. And also we have the last two links are for the academic calendar and the parent and family guide. You can go to the website, but I'm happy to email you a PDF of them so you can keep them, print them, put them on your fridge, whatever you want to do with those. So please, you can see our email, parentengagement@uci.edu, and I'm happy to share the PDF versions with you. And as Mel mentioned, please stay connected. Your student can also fill out a parent contact form in their ZOP portal. So they'll just go to their checklist and fill this out. And this will help keep you connected so you don't miss anything. And now we're going to move on to our panelists. Let me see. Our first panelist is amazing, Dr. Banks. So Dr. Banks currently serves as the Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs at UCI. He started this appointment in July of 2019. In his position, Dr. Banks is charged with providing oversight and direction to the Division of Student Affairs, which is comprised of clusters addressing the whole development of UCI students. These clusters include auxiliary services, student life and leadership, and wellness, health, and counseling services. This is a very important resource for students to get acquainted with, and he'll talk more about what his office and department does, but student affairs is definitely a word that your students should be aware of and should check out everything they offer. So the division is dedicated to transforming the lives of more than 35,000 students attending UCI, even virtually. Dr. Banks previously served as the Vice President for Student Affairs at Indiana State University for 2015 to 2019. Dr. Banks also held an appointment as an assistant professor. We could not be more proud to have such a dynamic leader in such a vital role for our students, so please welcome Dr. Banks.
Thank you, Lauren. What a great introduction, and just thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of this call. And hello to all of our Anteater families. Welcome. And I know that this is so hard and, you know, it's different. We would be in person and we'd have an opportunity to really spend some time together and really talk about the wonderful institution that is UCI. So even though this is done virtually, please know that we are so excited to welcome all of you to the UCI family. We are just so thrilled to have all of your students join us, even virtually, for this next school year. So thank you so much. Quickly, I just wanted to mention, as Lauren mentioned, the Division of Student Affairs is really committed to the focus and the development of the whole student. And we support the academic mission of the university by providing opportunities for students to learn about themselves and others through leadership and engagement activities in one of our 600+ student organizations. The division is comprised of 4 clusters. Our auxiliary services area is comprised of our student center, housing, dining, and the bookstore. Our wellness, health, and counseling includes our disability service center, the counseling center, student health center, the Anteater Recreation Center, and also our Office of Social Work. Our student life and leadership area includes areas including the Dean of Students area, our campus organizations and volunteer programs, our resource centers, which includes but not limited to our LGBTQ, Latinx, our women's, our Black Cultural Center, and also our Fresh Hub, Basic Needs, our Sustainability Center, and also opportunities for engagement through our student government and student media, orientation, and our International Center. And then our main office, which is the Office of the Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs, has a number of areas, including commencement, esports, our marketing communications area, and also special projects. Now, I know that everyone probably has a lot of questions regarding COVID, and I'll be honest with you, we're going to provide as much information as possible to help you and your student to make the best decision for your families. And that's the, you know, I want everyone to hear me when I say this. Once we get information, we are going to share that information with everyone. Unfortunately, due to this pandemic, things have changed quite dramatically and sometimes in a short amount of time. So I do just want to provide just some general comments about what's going to be happening with our residence halls and also instruction for the fall. Our halls and apartment communities will be single occupancy, meaning that there will only be one person residing in those spaces. And there will be a protocol prior to move-in and once students arrive on campus. Now, the deadline to cancel housing contracts without penalty is this Monday, August the 31st. One of the things that we just released this week, a piece of information, is that if students are living on campus and they leave for Thanksgiving break, we are recommending that those students remain at their permanent residence or wherever they're traveling to until the beginning of winter quarter. Students say, for instance, if they're here on campus and they leave for Thanksgiving, for some reason come back for the last 2 weeks of classes and finals, they will have to go through the move-in protocol, which includes having to have a negative COVID test prior to 7 days of moving in, prior to 7 days, within a 7-day time period before moving in, and then will be required to sequester in place for 14 days and then undergo further testing while they're on campus. Face coverings, physical distancing, the daily symptom checker, the return to campus training, hand washing and sanitizing will be required and mandatory for all of our students. For those students living on campus, the dining program will be grab and go. All of our programs and services will be provided remotely or virtually, with the exception of our student health center, which still remains open, our housing and dining facilities, which will service our students living on campus, and we will have limited hours for delivery for students who may be food insecure through the Fresh Basic Needs Hub. As your students have been told, A majority of classes will be held remotely and only a handful, and at last count, approximately only 21 classes will be actually held in a face-to-face environment for the fall quarter. Those are mainly upper division courses and for graduate programs or labs. And those students with concerns about classes in the winter and spring, the Vice Provost for Teaching and Learning, Michael Denon, did send out a message, I believe either a week or 2 weeks ago, alerting folks that a majority of the classes for winter and spring will be offered remotely as well. So I want to end there and just share, as you know, we're going to work with folks. I know that there are a lot of concerns about, you know, should my students stay on campus? Should they stay at home? And as I've said previously, you know, those are going to be decisions that you and your student will have to make. And we're going to support you and try to work with everyone to make sure that they have the best experience possible. This is not the ideal experience for us. We love having our students on campus. We love the residential experience, and that's why we have so many of our students. But, you know, when we're talking about the health and safety of our campus community, you know, we really have to take these guidelines seriously. And we do adhere to the guidelines provided by the state and then also the Orange County Healthcare Agency, and also guidelines provided by the Board of Regents of the University System of California. So we're taking it day by day and trying to make sure that we push out information as soon as we get it. I thank you for your patience, and then also make sure that you give all of us a little bit of grace, and also your students. We're going to make it through this together. It will be okay. My hope is that we will not be in a COVID environment for years and years, but that we have some resolution in the near future. With that, I'll turn it back over to Lauren and say welcome to all of our Anteater families.
Thank you so much, Dr. Banks. That was very helpful. I feel like every time I hear you speak, I learn something new. So thank you, and it makes it my job easier so I can provide families with answers that they do desperately need. So thank you. We'll be moving on to our next panelist, Mr. Brian Jew. Brian Jew is the Director of Marketing and Outreach for the Undergraduate Admissions Office at UCI. Brian is a proud Anteater alumnus and has been at the university since 1997. He began his professional career at UCI, serving as a campus representative coordinator, overseeing the tour program and its students. He currently oversees the outreach and recruitment efforts of the office while trying to keep everyone sane. Brian holds a BA in Criminology, Law and Society from UCI, and an MA in Theology from Biola University. Prior to COVID, Brian could often be found wandering around Disneyland with his family or sitting in traffic going to Dodger games. Please welcome Mr. Brian Jew.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much, Lauren, for that nice introduction. As Lauren was mentioning, my name is Brian Jew, and I'm the Director for Marketing and Outreach for Undergraduate Admissions. The reason we're here is that typically during the springtime, we're the ones that have been interfacing with you throughout this whole admissions process, and even probably before that at college fairs or when you came to take a campus tour or visited the campus prior to this whole pandemic. And what we always look forward to is to be able to celebrate that admissions with you. And unfortunately, with all the events this past spring, we were not able to do that. As Jeff had said earlier, we're the second most applied to school in the nation. We received over 122,000 applications worldwide. And for the in-state in California, we're actually the #1 most applied to school for freshmen. So it's a testament to your students' academic ability to be admitted to this great university, and it was definitely a competitive and selective process. But we just wanted to formally congratulate you and also recognize the parents and guardians who spent the last 4 years helping your student achieve this remarkable accomplishment here. And as we're on the brink of just welcoming you to the campus in maybe a new and different way that not many people were expecting, we still want to make sure that you're welcome and feel that this is a great institution of higher education that's well worth it. The numbers, the reputation speaks for itself, the programming. I feel as an alumni here and as a professional staff member that this campus that drew me when I was a high school senior as well in 1997 from the LA area, I didn't move very far, I only went like an hour away. I felt like the campus it was big enough to have all the resources and options and involvements of a big major university, but it still felt small. And I think that's in large part to the staff and the faculty who take the time to really make students first. And so hopefully we'll be able to assist your students through this whole transition here. I also have on the chat my colleague Andrea Helfer-Yothers to assist with any questions with that. Part of my role during the summer has been primarily the communications and outreach of all the different changes that have been happening. So every change that your student has been seeing, or any update about the campus through email or any of those other means, has actually come through our office. And so for the most part, we're still in charge of onboarding you and getting you enrolled to the campus, whether it's processing your final transcripts, making sure all your test scores are here, or just making sure that everything is ready for you to be enrolled on this end. So we've been playing an active part in making sure that the communication is out there. And just to echo Dr. Banks, we are trying to get as much communication out as fast as possible with just different things going on. Be looking for some communication this week as well as we get closer to the start of campus. But again, feel free to ask questions. We hope to get everything answered for you today. And welcome, and thank you for spending your morning with us. Back to you, Lauren.
Thank you so much, Brian. That was very helpful. Now we'll be moving on to another alum, Mr. Jack Twain. Jack Twain is the Vice President and Community Relations Manager for Wells Fargo. He joined Wells Fargo in 2002. As part of Wells Fargo's corporate responsibility team, Jack is responsible for managing over $7 million of the company's charitable giving and volunteerism programs in the Southern California region. He previously led the company's military affairs program for the West region. Jack is a dedicated leader who is committed to responsible philanthropic reputation and management programs. Having worked in the field for the last 15 years, he has a proven background in community development and corporate philanthropy. He speaks at various forums and conferences on the topics of philanthropy, volunteerism, branding, and cause marketing. Jack believes in creating social changes through action and is very active on many boards throughout Orange County. Jack holds an MBA from the UCI Paul Merage School of Business and is a graduate of the Southern California Leadership Network. Most importantly, he's a proud father of 4 beautiful children. Please welcome Mr. Jack Twain.
Thank you, Lauren. First off, on behalf of the I do want to congratulate all our incoming students. You've made it into a wonderful university, and glad to have you join the Anteater family. Again, my name is Jack Twain. I'm the current president of the UCI Alumni Association. And the Alumni Association is here at the school to really enrich the lives of our alumni, and also to provide engagement opportunity and for your lifetime, essentially, right? Because once you're an Anteater, you are an Anteater for life. So again, welcome into the Anteater family. It's a proud family and a growing family. We are all over the world now, and we also have alumni chapters that are springing up in every major city, as well as outside the country. Actually, probably around 200,000 alumni now. So we're very, very proud group. The way that we there's 3 strategies for the Alumni Association that we're focusing on, which is being a bridge to the community. Really is to welcome alumni and also community participants. If you're familiar with the area, UCI is one of the largest employers in the region, and is very engaged in all the activities within the Orange County region, whether it's around research or just community engagement. For example, BC Banks, I see him a lot when we were able to go in person to different events and networking mixers, and I see him a lot. And so the engagement from the UCI in the community is wonderful. The other focus we have is to create this culture of engagement from the very beginning. So starting now, our contact with you as students, and also for the family, hopefully we will be engaged with you and are able to provide engaging activities and opportunities for you to participate in, and really create that relationship for the rest of your life. And of course, the third pillar is to also support our alumni and students currently, but as you become alumni around career issues, providing you opportunities to network, to find mentors, and to be able to connect to job opportunities. So that's what we're here for. And just Anteater family, you know, I graduated UCI years ago with biological science, and I love the school so much. I came back for my MBA here at UCI, so I went twice, and you know, obviously different programs, but both program was incredible, and my experience and time here was incredible. I'm a first generation college student, immigrated to US as a young child, and UCI has really changed the trajectory for myself and also my family. So I'm so grateful for UCI, and that's why I am currently as very engaged alum in trying to support the university and hopefully be able to give back and support our students. I also have 4 kids. The oldest is second year at UC Santa Cruz. And yeah, I'm going through the same questions and issues that I'm sure all the parents are thinking about. But what I tell myself is, you know, this is hopefully a very short period of time. I tell my daughter, you know, you got 4 years at the school. There's plenty of time and opportunities to get back to normal. But to stay engaged, to be connected, because the friends that you make during the time in college are some of the friends that you keep for life. And not only are they friends, but they're great networks for the future. And so a lot of my friends still work with them on community. So welcome. And congratulations to all the new Anteaters, and also welcome to the family of our incoming students into the UCI family. Back to you, Lauren.
Thank you so much, Jack. It's always wonderful to hear your story because it's so compelling, and we're just so grateful that you're so involved with us and continue to do great things for UCI and our students. So thank you. Our next panelist is Michelle Milari. Michelle is entering her 4th year at UCI. She's completing a double major in political science and business administration. Over the past 3 years, she has interned in student life and leadership under the Associate Dean of Students. She has staffed orientation, so that's SPOP, which I'm sure you guys are familiar with. She has served in the student government, coordinated professional development and internship programs, among many other amazing things. She'll be serving as the student body president this year. Michelle is a dedicated UCI student who exemplifies school spirit and pride. Let's hear what Michelle has to say about her experiences with UCI. Hi, Michelle.
Hello, good morning. So my name is Michelle Milari, and I grew up in Santa Clara, which is where I am right now. And I went to school at Archbishop Mitty High School, if anyone knows where that is. And so when I came into UCI, I was entering in as a business administration major because I was involved in a few organizations back in high school, and I wanted to explore what management was like. And then later on, I decided to add political science just so I could learn more about the relationship between business and politics and people. But my first year is the year that I really broke out of my shell because despite being involved in high school, I was still a very shy person. So my first year, a lot of the people that I met were the ones that encouraged me to keep on applying to new things that interested me, even if I wasn't sure if I was capable enough. And so that's how I ended up interning for student life and leadership. That was my first main involvement at UCI. And then after that, things just kept on piling up because as an intern, I got to meet more people with different departments. I got to meet other students, and doing all of that just made me more connected to UCI and wanting to continue to learn more and see where I could help support students. So all of those things eventually built up to me wanting to run for president. So for this coming year, I'll be serving as the student government president for undergrads. And as a student government, our organization focuses on different advocacy roles within UCI and also on the federal and state levels to advocate for students. But we also try and provide some sort of entertainment as well. So we work a lot with our campus organizations to see how we can support our students socially. So I can also talk a little bit about what it was like to be a student during spring quarter, which is when we went remote. So our classes were either live, so happening like face-to-face almost, and some are also pre-recorded. But our professors were also very flexible and responsive. They were open to office hours, and our student organizations also continued to meet virtually. So we still had an aspect of connecting with other people just through a screen. But it was a great quarter to see how students could support one another. And I think that's something that will continue on for this coming year. And I'd be happy to answer any other questions later on about the student experience. So back to you, Lauren.
Thank you so much. And we'll definitely ask you some questions in a bit. So we'll actually be jumping over to our Q&A portion of the event now. As Christina mentioned, we'll try to get to the majority of your questions, but unfortunately we know we won't be able to answer them all. So Dr. Banks, I'm sure you're aware, we have a lot of housing questions.
Yes.
So a lot of parents are worried about their students' safety due to COVID while potentially living in the dorms. Can you explain the safety precautions that the staff are utilizing?
Sure. Well, in addition to the normal protocols, we have increased cleanliness and also the sanitizing areas. And also, as I mentioned, all of our spaces will be single occupancy. So that's going to help. And there are going to be directives and there will be requirements for our students living on campus. So say, for instance, if you are living on campus and you've chosen that experience, one of the things that you need to understand that prior to move-in, and everyone will be assigned a move-in date, and essentially it'll be only like 1 or 2 people per hour per building that are allowed in. And what will happen is the student will have to demonstrate and show and upload a negative COVID test prior to coming to campus. And once that is cleared, they will then be able to go in, and it's really like a drive-through area. They'll be able to retrieve their keys, move in, and then once they get into their residence hall room, there will be a set of expectations for everyone as far as keeping your mask on in common areas. And then also, if you're sharing bathrooms in a suite style, some of those sinks will be marked off. We will go over all of the requirements with the students that are living in campus housing. Probably they should get information probably mid-September, so within the next few weeks. And then also there will be training. There will be specific training for housing students as far as a video, probably like 15 to 20 minutes that everyone will have to complete before moving on to campus. But the protocol, is all the protocols are there. We're still requiring students to stay 6 feet apart, to wear face coverings, to adhere to social distancing, and even the dining program will be grab and go. So there won't be any sort of congregation as far as people just hanging out and milling about in spaces. And also I did forget to mention is that once students arrive, they will have to sequester in their spaces for 14 days. And they'll live in their Zot pod. And if there is any sort of traveling, they'll have to do that together. And then there will be some regular testing that occurs for students that live on campus. It's not the ideal living situation, but in these times, we have had to adapt and try to figure out how do we bring people onto campus? How do we create community virtually? As Michelle said, our student organizations and our offices on campus have really been working around the clock to figure out how do we continue to engage our students? How do we make this feel like home? Because for some of us who have experienced or lived and worked on a college campus, it's all about community. And how do you build community? It's bringing people together. And in a pandemic, this is probably our worst nightmare, is that we can't bring people together to create community. So we have to be flexible, we have to be creative. And I'm proud to say that our students and our staff have really risen to that challenge to really make sure that everyone feels connected.
Thank you, that was wonderful. So a question, I think you just touched on it, like what are the advantages of living on campus while, doing remote learning, not going to the classroom? Can you just share a little bit more about that?
Sure, absolutely. And I think that's where that personal decision is for every family and every student will be really important. I think one of the things to remember, though, is that because we have such a diversity of students that are attending our institution, a lot of our students are in different and difficult situations. And so UCI and our residence halls are really sort of their default home. For example, we have a number of students that are either in foster care that have aged out of the foster care system. And for some students that are, say for instance, living in multi-generational homes, or some students who don't have access to internet, and it's really difficult for them to really sort of figure out, how do I continue to do remote learning if I don't have access to internet? And then also I have responsibilities to my family. So I think it's really important for people to understand that, we're going to offer as much information as we can, but everyone has to make that decision as far as if they want to be on campus or remain at home. I think it's important for people to understand, we're going to work with your students. We're going to try to figure out what's the best solution to these issues and problems. But ultimately, families are going to have to make that decision. My hope is that we're going to be able to create an exciting environment for our students, even if they choose to do this from their homes. As Michelle mentioned earlier from the spring quarter, she's a student that has lived through this. We can create community. It's not ideal, but we're going to do our best to make it happen. So I will say, for those students that are choosing to live on campus, some, there may be some parents who are saying, we want you to have this experience, and even though in this situation, go to campus, live on campus, and try to interact with other people in a safe way. But also understand that if you do choose that route, you're going to have to do some things on a daily basis and really adhere to the rules and regulations of the institution.
That was wonderful. Thank you. Another question that we continue to receive is so they're asking, if their student declines housing for fall, what is the process, and how does it look for them to gain housing for the winter and spring quarters?
Yeah, and what we will do is we'll work with everyone, because that's a valid question, because people are concerned, what does that mean for the housing guarantee? At this point in time, if you do cancel for the fall, we're going to try to figure out, and we will have a process to take applicants for the winter and spring quarter. But that's under the assumption that we are allowed to bring back more people in the winter and spring. So everything is sort of a gamble. The thing is that we want to bring even more people back in winter and spring, but that is making the assumption that California has done a better job of flattening the curve and the spread of the virus. That also includes that Orange County has to be off of the wait list, of the watch list, to make sure that we can bring in more people. And so we have to juggle all of these guidelines. And then also we're waiting to see how things happen. I think that we'll have a better sense of things probably by mid-October, as far as what the winter and spring will look like. But it's all very different. I know, I will just share, we have colleagues at UCLA and UC Santa Barbara that had to scale back their return plans because of their counties that they are located in. And so it's really dependent on where the institution is located. And for us in Orange County, I need to check. I think that we were off the watch list, but we still have to have 14 days of steady and no cases. And so that could change how things happen. But as soon as we find out, we will let our families and our students know. But we can't guarantee that, everyone's going to have housing in the winter and spring.
Thank you for that. And then if families do decide, they want to send their student to UCI to live on campus, what will the move-in look like? Are parents allowed to help? Are there restrictions? Can you?
Yeah, there will be restrictions in addition to the students having to do, having negative tests. One of the things, and I'm not sure of the specifics, and we will send that information out in about 2 weeks. but there's going to be limited numbers of people that can help the student move in. And then also there will be requirements as far as displaying or having negative COVID tests. So there will be requirements for people who are helping our students move in. And then also you're going to only be able to move in during a specific time frame. So if it is September 27th from 1 to 2 p.m., that is it. It's going, and you're going to have to adhere to physical distancing, and then also the face coverings, hand washing, sanitizing, all of those things.
Yeah, thank you. That makes sense, to keep everyone safe.
Yeah.
And can you touch on, I know you mentioned in the last reception, the protocol, if someone does get sick, the quarantine process there?
Yeah, so what's going to happen is, like, all of our students, and as employees, every employee is required to do a daily symptom checker. So if you're living on campus, all of our students will be loaded into the system, and everyone's going to be required to complete the daily symptom checker. And for those students who are living on campus, you would complete it, and then if you have any of the symptoms, if you feel like you may have a symptom, then you could click yes, and then you would be directed to the student health center. That person would then have a conversation with you. It typically would be a nurse practitioner, and then direct you to figure out if you need to actually contact your primary care physician if it's not with the student health center, or the student health center, and figure out what's the next steps as far as the protocol. So say, for instance, if you have to have a COVID test, you would then come to the student health center, go through a process, get your results. If it is positive, we in University Housing have set aside 400 beds to actually deal with the potential of students becoming positive. And then what would happen is that student would then be placed within that space as far as isolation or quarantining, and then would monitor them. And typically what has happened in the past is that our student health center staff would actually follow up with the student on a daily basis to monitor symptoms, and then work with them to figure out what are the next steps as far as getting more tests. And once there is a negative test after you've moved through the COVID cycle, then you would be able to move back to your space.
Okay, thank you so much. It's very helpful. And I know a lot of families are worried about how the quality, I guess, of the remote learning, and if their degree will still mean as much and things like that. Can you just touch on, the remote method, and they ask, will their education be less valuable?
Oh yeah, and I think that's an interesting question. I'm gonna say this up front, and I'm gonna say, do not forget that you and your students have gotten into the University of California, and the UCI degree is going to be just as valuable now as it was 5 years ago or a year ago. And I think even though the delivery of information is remote and virtual, that's not going to cheapen any degree. I really do believe that. The other piece that everyone needs to remember is we're not the only institution that's doing this. So most of the institutions across the country, there's some other institutions in certain pockets of the country that are doing face-to-face instruction, but this delivery does not cheapen or lessen the degree from the University of California at all. I think the other thing for folks to understand is that even pre-COVID, we actually had a healthy and a robust number of classes that were delivered remotely and virtually to our student body. So this was not a huge pivot for us as far as instructions saying we need to do everything online, because we already had some experience doing that. And so that is the great thing about this experience. But I don't think it cheapens it. The thing is that a lot of us in higher education, we're all doing it because we want to keep everyone healthy and safe. And that is at the forefront of our work, is making sure that everyone is healthy and safe.
Wonderful, thank you so much. And do you mind touching on what mental health resources will be available to students?
Sure. Well, in addition to our counseling center, and most of our counseling center staff have been doing all of their appointments with our students, and that has increased dramatically. And so our counseling center staff will be available to provide counseling sessions to our students virtually, and that is wonderful. Also, we have our resource centers, which provide a lot of opportunities for our students to connect with other individuals and other students, and also a lot of group work. And so we will continue to provide those opportunities for our students, and anyone that needs assistance and help, either through a counseling center, the student health center, which also has a team of psychiatrists, And then also our Office of Social Work and our resource centers. They are all there to help our students really manage through this difficult time.
Thank you. And then this is another popular question. Can you explain why there will not be a reduction in the tuition costs, although the learning is remote?
Yeah, sure. And if you can, Lauren, there is some great information from the University of California system and the system around mandatory fees and tuition. And the reality is that even though we're doing this remotely and changing the type of way that we're doing instruction, there's still a number of costs associated with the functioning and delivering this to our students. And so the university system has made that decision that there will not be a change in tuition or in the mandatory fees because we are still providing that service and doing the instruction virtually for our students. And because that delivery still requires a lot of back-end support, we need that support to make sure that we're delivering the information and our curriculum to our students.
Thank you. And we'll be sure to share the link with everyone so they can read that. I know it's super informative.
Yes.
Let me see. And then just one last question for you. Sorry. I just lost it. Can students utilize their UCI health insurance if they're living at home during remote learning?
Yes, they can, because Student Health Center and the USHIP is, I believe it's part of the Anthem network. And so if you go to the Student Health Center website, there will be instructions on how to utilize USHIP, even if you aren't within the Irvine or on campus. And that website will also have information on how to waive or seek a waiver to not be part of USHIP. Say, for instance, if your student is stay on a parent or a family insurance and they opted out of USHIP.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Banks. And we'll move on to questions for other panelists at this time. Appreciate all your help. This question is for Jack. Since there are, the group attending and watching this, it's a mix of freshmen and transfer students. So we'd like to touch on the transfer aspect. The students would like to know what career advice you have for them.
Career advice would be, don't wait until you get your degree. Don't wait until you graduate. You need to get engaged now. And actually that question was some advice I was going to give at the end. Jeff had mentioned the Anteater network, and that's a virtual online platform that we use for connecting you to mentors. And there's a lot of mentors who are alums who would love to help you. But so that's one is connect with a mentor. Two is start your networking early, and it doesn't hurt. In my job, I get a lot of people give me calls and say, "Hey, can I do informational interviews with you about how you got into what you do and your career track and advice?" And those that are especially alums who see, hey, it's a UCI student reaching out, would love to spend some time and just provide advice. And even if they're not UCI alum, a lot of people just want to be able to help you in your journey if you have a genuine interest in pursuing something that they're an expert at, right? So those two I think would be important to start on. Internships are also really great. So if you have an opportunity to get an internship somewhere to develop some of that experience, but it's also about not only the experience, but also getting your foot in the door, especially in corporations. And then from there, there's many opportunities that opens up internally that you get to see. And so that opens up opportunities for you. So those three things I think are good starts.
Thank you. And then one more for you, Jack. What should students look for in a mentor, especially first generation students who might not have a network?
I certainly connect with someone that probably would have maybe similar background if that's something that's important. But I would also encourage maybe to connect with somebody that has a different background, because it opens up something that you may not have seen, right? Or you may not be even aware of. When I was going to school, I was, as a first generation, I had no guidance and nobody even pointed me in any direction. that's why I major in biology. Is like, you know, as an Asian immigrant kid, what do you know? Okay, you can be a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer. Those are your options. But when you talk to other people in different fields, they can really give you more of an idea of what those fields are. So for example, you know, later in life, when I figure out there's this thing called investment banking, hey, that's really interesting, right? What a wonderful career. But I would have never known that, you know, until I run into people that do that. So I think just the Anteater network can help you through that, because you can select interest areas and such, and hopefully connect. But I would say, you know, keep your perspective broad if you have time, so that you can explore different opportunities, because you never know what you're going to find that you're really passionate about. And that's really the main thing, is figure out what you're passionate about.
Yeah, thank you so much. And just one more, just in addition to AntNet, is there any other way to find someone that might take a student under their wing?
Yeah, again, it's a network. Like for me, my experience, I get actually cold calls from people, and they say, you know, I found you on LinkedIn, and you're in a career that I really enjoy, would love to enjoy doing as a career, and then reached out in that way. So I've had people reach out to me on LinkedIn. I had people that were referred over, so maybe connect with somebody that after you connect with someone that's willing to spend some time with you, ask for a referral and say, hey, who would you recommend that I might be able to talk to that would be open? And so that referral, people will respond better to a referral from someone they know. That's another way. There's career services at UCI as well, and maybe connecting there to see if the career counselors might be able to put you in touch with some folks, because they also know some of the recruiters that they work with for job opportunities, right? Or even internships. And if you're able to get it and build a relationship with your faculty member, those are really important relationships to have, because your faculty member also knows a lot of people. And they can also probably be great mentors. Your TAs can become mentors as well. I had one of the faculty members that I did undergraduate research for became a bit of a mentor for me because I spent so much time in the lab in my undergrad year. So that was a relationship that was built there. So don't discount your professors, because not only they're your instructors, but they can also be mentors if you spend time with them.
That's great. Thank you so much, Jack. We'll now be moving on to a few questions for Michelle. Hi, Michelle, thank you. So some families are interested in learning about engagement in student activities that they can participate in while being remote.
Sure. So first, from a student government perspective, we do have some applications open if your student is interested in being a part of student government. We have a lot of different branches, whether you're interested in more of advocacy work or marketing or event planning. So that could be found on our ASUCI website, which I can put in the chat below later. But besides that, even if you're not too interested in student government, we will be having a virtual Anteater involvement fair where all of our organizations will be a part of a website, and a student can go to it and check out each different organization that they're interested in. And it'll have all the information that for contacting the organization, what they're about. And so students are definitely able to join organizations during the school year. Again, when I mentioned during the spring quarter, how we worked was students would still have their meetings with each other. They would still try and get to meet one another, still invite new people. A lot of the student organizations are still functioning and running. They're holding their regular meetings still. So it's definitely possible to get involved.
Thank you. And then one more to just touch on that. How are students able to find other students with similar interests?
Yeah, sure. So besides joining student organizations, that's one way, but also our UCI Facebook page. There's one for specifically the class of 2024. So a lot of students are connecting through there. In addition to that, some of the mentors or some students are posting there to act as mentors if students do have questions. And lastly, through SPOP right now. So I know that a lot of first years and transfer students are involved in the orientation program right now. And the orientation leaders, they're also very open to trying to refer you to new resources, but also trying to be there as a mentor and as a friend. So I hope I can communicate that a lot of the orientation leaders are there just so that they can support you in any way possible. And if that also means connecting you with another student, then I think they would be willing to do that as well.
That's great. Thank you so much. I believe that's all the questions for you for now. We're actually going to move over to Brian Jew. Brian, I do have an admissions question. Families are just interested in learning about any important fees or deadlines that they should be aware of.
Sure. Really, at this point, there is no other important fees besides the regular ZOD bill, which I've been indicating in the chat. So if you don't have information about the ZOD bill and all of that, that is available at the ZOD account, uci.edu, and you'll be able to have your student log in and access all the information there. So that'll help provide some guidance and deadlines for fees. The fee deadline is September 15th. And then after that, there's a small grace period, obviously, but there could be some consequences regarding dropping the classes or a freeze on the account from adding new classes. So there might be some various holds as some of those deadlines kind of pass. The financial aid office and the finance office is available and campus billing is available to work individually with parents if there is a need for a payment plan or some sort of customized option for your specific situation. So please reach out to them specifically. If your student logs into their admissions portal, they'll be able to see if there's any outstanding documents or information on their checklist. So as long as we have all of the important documents such as transcripts and any test scores or things like that, then there should be no other important deadlines on our end. There might be some other campus deadlines as you start the enrollment process and classes begin, but that is where we are able to kind of hand you off during this event to the rest of the campus through the academic units and the student affairs offices.
Thank you. And then one more question. We've had some parents ask because they're interested in paying the bill, the admissions, the course bill on their own. What are the methods of payment, and do they have to log in via their student's login, or how does that work?
I'm not too sure on that end. I know they've changed the system in the last few years, so I would definitely look through the website. I know there is a way for parents, guardians to be able to have access to pay the bill. So it's not going to be entirely up to the student for sure, but definitely the specific ways I would go log into the bill and check it. There should be some information regarding that.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Brian. And that will conclude our Q&A for the event. We'll now be moving on to our final words of wisdom. So if all the panelists could please turn their videos on, we'd like to just share some final words of wisdom with our families. Dr. Banks, will you kick it off?
Yeah, I remember when I moved to college, and this was a while ago, and I'm a first-gen college student myself, and so didn't really have an idea of what was going to happen. And so I have a quick story to share, is that my parents dropped me off as an undergrad at Mercer University, and my dad was in the military, so career military man in the Air Force. And so he and my mom dropped me off, and they got my stuff there. And then I remember my dad looking at me and hugging me, and then said, "Son, you're going to do great. But you can't come home for 6 weeks. So you got to figure out how to survive here in college." So I started crying. My mom started crying. They left. And then literally they were only 2 hours away, but they said, "You got to figure out how to do this on your own." And that was probably one of the biggest pieces of advice that I received from my father was, college is an opportunity for people to really figure out how to make their way in the world. And so when I ran into questions about how to pay for a bill, or if I got a bill and I had no clue what it was about, I had to figure out who to talk to on campus. And so that prepared me to really navigate what higher education and a college campus could be. So my advice to my families and parents out there is empower your students to figure out this journey for themselves. And I understand wanting to help them, but also empower them to do those phone calls, to email those offices and try to figure out, how do I, as an individual student, figure out and solve these problems. The last thing that I will say is spend as much time as you can with your families and your students. Eat as much food, hug, kiss, love on your families, because I'm all the way across the country from my family, and it's been almost 6 or 7 months since I've seen them. So, you know, right now I'm so starved for mom and nieces and brother and sister time with my family. So that is my final piece of advice for our students and our families, is just love on each other as much as you can, and also celebrate this important milestone.
Thank you so much. That was great. Brian, would you like to share some words?
Yes, thank you. And yeah, just to echo Dr. Banks first, yeah, I remember in '97, my parents dropped me off in Mesa Court and literally left after they moved me in. So I think when you look at the university, we have all the resources available. We have so many staff and faculty available, but because it's so big, we're not able to always be able to guide each individual question. And so it's going to take some initiative from the students to reach out and just ask. I think the staff and faculty are helpful in that if we can't answer your question, we will at least try to direct you to the appropriate office that can handle it. And I know during this time, it's a little different because all the offices are remote. It's a little different way of communicating. The admissions office, we have a chat bot that's available Monday through Friday for live chatting. So if you do want to speak to any of our staff members, you can go on during that time to actually live chat with any of our staff, and we'll try to direct you to the appropriate places. But there's a lot of resources on campus to be able to help guide your students there. They're just going to have to take that initiative to do that. And that is what made my UCI experience so great, was just taking the initiative to find out about research, to find out how to be involved on campus, how to get involved with an organization. Once you get involved with an organization or a club or group, it makes the campus feel a lot smaller, and you feel really the ability to navigate it is a lot less stressful once you kind of get involved and have peers who are on that. And I know your students can do that because we admitted them. We've seen their grades and involvements and test scores and things. So definitely empower them to, take that initiative. The other thing I would say for parents is that twofold. One is that now that you've gotten a student into UCI, a lot of other parents are going to be asking you, how do I get my student into that? You kind of become the experts now into supposedly getting in your students to UCI. I know there's many parents who go on College Confidential or any of these other sites, Reddit, to kind of say, hey, my student had this score or this profile, this is what got them in. This year, the admissions process is changing, and we are eliminating test scores, as you know that in the UC system, or we're going test optional this year. So it's going to be a very fluid year for if you have younger siblings or friends and neighbors and whatnot that are asking about this. So definitely we're here to help you as well through the next future processes of the admissions cycle. And finally, I want to say that as part of the communications team here, your information is really critical to us. So there is a parent engagement form that is on your student portal. It's an optional form, but we'd really love to have your student or you go in and fill that out. And that's our best way to get updated contact information so that when things happen, and if you want to be included with communications and mailings, I would really suggest going onto the admissions portal and filling that parent engagement form out. And that way we can have the most up-to-date information if you'd like to be connected to the Anteater family. But I would say, again, just congratulations, a job well done to the parents to get your students up to this point. We want to definitely hand this off and help your students kind of enjoy the next 4 years in the best possible way. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Brian. I'd like to switch it over to Jack. I know you've mentioned a lot of great words of wisdom already, but if you just have some final words.
Sure. I mean, aside from getting started early with your networking and just reaching out to folks in preparation, I think similar to what's already been said, as a first generation student, my parents wasn't able to read a lot of the information. So I had to figure that, the whole application process, the financial aid, all that stuff when I went to school. And I think that, I think as transfer students, also you've had some experience in navigating sort of systems, and I think it's the uh, the opportunity to really kind of find the resources at UCI is tremendous, in the sense that UCI provides a lot of has a lot of support, and so it's part of your responsibility is to figure out where you need to go to get that support on campus. From anything from whether it's mental health counseling to career services to and being engaged in the clubs, because word of mouth is how you kind of learn a lot of things too. I mean, if I didn't know something, I'd ask a fellow student, and the fellow student would probably say, "Hey, yeah, check whatever out," and that's how I learn a lot of the resources that were available on campus. But since I'm representing the Alumni Association, I also want to say that the Alumni Association actually puts on a ton of programming. Right now, we're doing a lot of virtual programming. And so I would say, take advantage of those, right? Is to be engaged in that way. Also, and then when we get back to sort of being able to get back together, come out and participate in the programming that we do have, because the Alumni Association also partners with a lot of the on-campus programs to do things, especially like this one, for example, right? The Parent and Family Engagement Team partner with the Alumni Association to do this. And so through that, you're going to get connected to a lot of the resources as well. And then one more thing is some of the most engaged alums are on the board of directors of the Alumni Association. So, right there is a great opportunity if you ever want to reach out and connect with potential mentors, or just have coffee. And I know that board members love to give their time and feedback and advice. So those are a couple of my advice. And for parents, I like I said, my daughter's in her starting her second year soon, and I sent her up to Santa Cruz. And I said bye, and I check in with her every once in a while, and she'll call me sometimes for advice, but she's figured it all out on her own too. And it's once you say goodbye, it'll be a lot easier, because your students are resilient and they'll figure it all out.
Thank you so much. It was great having a perspective from a parent of a UC student, an alum, and first generation, all of it. So I truly appreciate it. Thank you. And now we'll be moving on to our last panelists offering final words. Michelle. Hi, Michelle.
Thank you. So my last words of wisdom would be the same whether we were virtual or in person, but it would be to be very intentional with the way that you use your time and find community, and figuring out what you want to get involved in, how you want to use your next 4 years. Because even though I ended up being very involved in college and ended up as the student government president, I still think my first year I could have used it a lot better. I could have been more meaningful in my relationships. I could have started getting involved sooner, and I feel like that would have connected me even sooner to more people that I eventually would meet, but I wish it could have been sooner. But regardless of that, I think finding community, that can mean being friends with the people in your dorms. It can mean being friends with people in your organizations or your classes, but it can also just mean connecting to one other person. So your community doesn't have to be a whole campus of people. It's fine if it's just one person, but it's always good to have somebody there to support you, whether that means for your personal things, for your personal goals, fulfillment, for your academics. And if they're not sure how to support you, there's always the possibility that they know somebody else. So again, about the network, it's very important to keep your connections, because it's all about students wanting to support one another. And I think UCI is one of the best schools for showing that. So thank you, Lauren.
Thank you so much for sharing. And thank you to everyone who joined us this morning. We're so excited to have you and your student join the Anteater family. We can't wait to connect with you. Hopefully you'll attend coffee socials and Anteater family weekend. So we're thrilled to just be connected with you. We'll keep you in the loop with all of the COVID communications, as well as other campus news. So be sure to fill out your parent information form. And then now I will pass the torch off to my colleague, Mel. who will give some final remarks to conclude this morning's reception. It's been a pleasure, and I hope you can walk away from this event excited and prouder than ever to become part of the Anteater family. So kick it off, Mel.
Thanks so much, Lauren. You've done such a wonderful job of facilitating everything. So thank you for getting everybody in the spirit and celebrating all of these students' amazing accomplishment on their admittance to UCI. So again, I echo Lauren in saying thank you everyone for attending the event this morning. We'll be sending everyone a follow-up email, including our contact information, resources, upcoming event details, and more info about engagement opportunities that we mentioned earlier this morning. So we've now arrived at our social media moment. Typically, we close these receptions out by taking a group photo to get in the Anteater spirit. So I invite you all to grab your pendant flag that Lauren sent you in the mail for our grand finale. And we invite you to take a photo to post on your social media, tagging our UCI parent and family accounts, which we'll share on the screen in a moment. But before we invite you to take your photo, we'll show you one of the most important things you can learn as an anteater, and that is how to zot. So here's an infographic showing how to position the fingers, but it's more fun if we have a little tutorial from Dr. Banks. Dr. Banks, would you please show everyone the proper way to zot?
Absolutely. And let me just tell you, this was one of the first things I learned to do over a year ago. And so this is great information, practical information that you will use for the rest of your life, I promise you. If you will, hold up your hand. And what you're going to do is bend your middle two fingers and have it connect with your thumb. And then you're going to pull your thumb back. And that is the anteater. And so when we do zot, 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 that is the sound that the anteater makes. So that's the big thing, is just making sure you pull your thumb back to give it the little anteater face and the snout. So there you go. So zot, zot, zot.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Please do tag our accounts at UCI Parents for Facebook and at UCI Parents and Family for Instagram. We love to see all your faces and are excited to have an opportunity to meet you in person one of these days.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, last thing. Definitely take a picture of this slide and reach out to our office if you did not receive a pennant flag for some reason. We're at parent engagement at uci.edu, and I'm going to switch to just a final slide if you're still on here. These are important resources, so definitely take a photo of this or screenshot it. These are the contacts that you will likely most need. So take note of this, and yeah, feel free to reach out with us, and we'll likely refer you out to housing in the other offices since it's not our expertise. And yeah, we hope you have a great day.
Lauren? Can I add one thing?
Please.
Yes. So there were probably around 500 questions today through the Q&A and the chat. And so we appreciate you bearing with us. We will save the chat and all questions. And as Lauren mentioned, start to farm out questions to have them answered or provide you with the correct contact. So with 1,000 attendees and 500 questions, we definitely tried to do our best. And Lauren, huge kudos to you for managing the Q&A, and Andrea for the chat from the International Admissions Office. So, well, actually out of state. We appreciate you all. Thank you and take care.